friends of mine as well.
Okay.
From the neighborhood. And so I guess we're still waiting for some people.
Well, we can start.
Let's start.
Let's start.
Let's start. People come. They'll come. They'll join. So this is going to be a question-answer session. We're going to keep questions short, answers short, not lecture.
Okay. Does anybody mind if I record this? Does anybody mind if I record this? No? Okay, good.
I don't mind. I don't know about you guys. What is record this? Recording.
Record
this.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We're going to be famous.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Somebody has to begin. If it's Q&A, I'm not beginning.
So I'll ask the first question, I guess. When something happens to a person, for example, right, a person is dealing with a stack of paper and he gets a paper cut, right? Do we view that as a natural occurrence, meaning it happened because you got a paper cut, or do we say that there is some divine plan in play, that God controls everything, even to a paper cut that person gets?
And you want a short answer to that?
Yeah. So it'll be a benchmark.
If it's a difference of opinion between the Rambam and the Kabbalists. By Rambam, I don't just mean the Rambam himself. I mean anybody who's associated with Rambam's way of thinking. According to the Rambam's way of thinking, not everybody in this world enjoys direct divine providence. Only very few people enjoy direct divine providence on a constant basis. And therefore, if you get a paper cut and you're not a great tzaddik, that means nothing. According to the Kabbalists, according to the Mekubalim, then anything which happens to anybody at any time is because of direct providence, what we call hashgacha pratit of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So therefore, anything which happens any time would have been destined for Hashem, from Hashem, to happen to you. Now, that being said, there's another aspect which the Gemara says in Masechet Erchin, that if a person sticks a hand into his pocket to take out a quarter, it takes out instead a dime, that's called yisurin, that's called suffering. Suffering in this world is a wonderful thing because it atones for sins and reminds a person to do tshuva and perhaps get to a higher level. So therefore, even though it might not be something which is destined to a person according to the Rambam, but it will atone for sin and help a person to realize what they should be doing. Is that short enough?
Yes.
Okay.
Piggybacking on that then, so according to the ones that the opinion that holds that if everything is controlled by God, so how do we explain suffering on a grander scale? For example, we're going to go straight at Holocaust, right? So that's a question people ask all the time. If God controls every single little action that happens to a person, then God is directly responsible for everything that happened to every single person in the Holocaust itself as well.
Well, listen.
There's a direct responsibility. It wasn't just he left it to the nature to work itself out. You're saying that God was directly responsible for every single thing that happened.
Thing is like this. Even the Mekubalim have a difference of opinion. Some the Orach Chaim HaKadosh in Parashat Vayeshev says that and he was a big Mekubal, says that if somebody wants to assassinate, to murder somebody else, they can accomplish that, even though it's not Ratzon Hashem, it's not God's will that person died this time. As the Orach Chaim is going on the story there, where Reuven has Yosef thrown into the pit, and the Gemara says in Masechet Shabbat that this pit had nechashim v'akrabim, had snakes and scorpions in it. So the question is, how is he saving Yosef from the brothers by throwing him into a pit with just snakes and scorpions? So the Orach Chaim says an amazing thing. He says that even though a person is not destined to die at this time, but another human being can overcome that destiny and kill a person. But snakes and scorpions cannot. Therefore, if Yosef is hurt by the snakes and scorpions, killed by the snakes and scorpions, since they don't have free will, that means that was his time to die. It's only if Yosef is killed by the brothers that it doesn't indicate that it was time to die, because they can overcome that. So therefore, one aspect of the answer to Shlomo's question is that during the time of the Holocaust, many people were killed by other people, and that would be up to their free will at least according to some of the Mekubalim who follow the line of thought of the Orach Chaim. According to the other line of thought of the Mekubalim, you have to get a little bit radical. In other words, assuming that the other Mekubalim, that nobody gets killed by anybody else unless they deserve to die at that moment, which I'm not comfortable with that view, but there is such a view. So according to that view, every person who dies in the Holocaust died because Hashem decreed that. The question is whether death is a good thing or a bad thing from their perspective. Now, this is a hard thing for us to understand because it relies on the assumption that there's an Olam Haba and that there is a reward in the world to come, and that people who die al Kiddush Hashem have a great reward in the world to come. So therefore, even though for the nation it is a tremendous tragedy that the loss of such great people and such a great amount of people occurred, nevertheless one could argue that for the individuals who were killed, who died al Kiddush Hashem, that was a tremendous merit for them, which gives them a special level in the world to come.
So what you're saying is that the reason why Holocaust occurs was the good.
I didn't say the reason Holocaust.
Oh,
You didn't ask me that question.
Okay, what was the you answered which question? Why
That's
God allowed-
why God had allowed many people to be killed.
Okay, so let's go to another question then. Why did God allow Holocaust to occur?
I don't know. But the thing is that like this, generally speaking, when you go through history, the good guys win. And that is, I think, a evidence for the Yad Hashem in creation. And since, I don't know why the Holocaust had to occur. There are many reasons given, none of which are satisfying in and of themselves. But without the Holocaust, there would not have been a state of Israel. There would not have been the flourishing of Judaism in Israel, in America, and other places. And therefore, we see that somehow on a national level, there was a purpose for the Holocaust to occur. Again, that doesn't explain why the Holocaust happened.
Not really fair to those in the ovens.
Yes, I agree. It doesn't, but death is usually not fair to anybody. That just happens to everybody. But the contextualizing the Holocaust in history, so we see that it's part of a master plan, and that in and of itself is not a reason, but it indicates that there's something about the Holocaust which was divinely ordained in order to accomplish the rebuilding of the land of Israel.
But some religious Jews do not believe that the land of Israel is the official land. They're still waiting for Messiah to come and to claim the land of Israel. They don't recognize the state of Israel as,
Do I have to agree with them?
they.
I don't think they're right. I think they're wrong.
I don't know. Those people.
Do you think they're right?
Well, but Israel is not a religious state.
So what?
It's absolutely far from being religious. I think people in America are more religious than people in.
So whose fault is that?
We're not.
It's your fault.
It's his fault, personally?
But yeah, of course.
In a way, maybe, but still.
It's the fault of the fact that so many people in Israel are not religious is the fault of the religious. Because we don't make enough of a Kiddush Hashem, we don't sacrifice God's name enough to convince other people to become Orthodox Jews. There's a story about Rabbi Naftali Amsterdam, who was a student of Rabbi Yisrael Salanter, who founded the Musar movement in Lithuania, that he said that everything he does in this world, he was trying to do in order to demonstrate how holy it is to be a Torah Jew. And unfortunately, most Torah Jews don't go through life, and myself included, don't go through life always thinking of how to exemplify, how to manifest, how to bring about behavior which is going to inspire people to become religious. By the way, as Shlomo knows, I hold that one of the great things which impede us from becoming great tzaddikim of this sort is driving. Because most people who drive in ways which go against midot tovot. Well,
You caught people, you road rage.
do you get upset when
Driving in New York, you cannot just,
Right, that's the point. That's why I say, if you want to be a tzaddik, you have to stop
If you're
driving.
a religious Jew and you're driving on highways and you're in road rage, it's not a good look.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
That's why they're usually the ones who cut people off and drive them down.
Yeah, because they are not the most
They wanna
responsible
kill them.
drivers.
No, they're not.
And that's the problem.
Yeah.
Usually, when you see religious Jew driving, you're like, okay, let me just.
Exactly, right.
Let me just go
Here's
the
the
way.
question. Okay.
Because
You get the timing right. The world as a whole, God created the earth, right? And then one day he rested. When was this? 6,000 years ago?
What do I believe, or what is? What do you?
What-
There are many different opinions.
according to the Torah, it was
Majority opinion.
There is
According
no
to the
majority
Torah, 'cause
opinion.
Everyone goes back to the Torah.
The Torah. So the beautiful thing about the Torah is that it has many interpretations.
Right.
That's what makes Judaism fun. So therefore, in order for Judaism to be fun, we have several opinions as to when the world was created.
Okay.
Some people will say that you're a heretic if you believe that the world was created more than 5,777 years ago. Other people will say that you're a heretic if you believe that. So there are many different ways of approaching the age of the universe, and I want to make it clear that before I give my opinion on the age of the universe, I don't believe in evolution.
Okay.
Okay, I think evolution is baloney, not for religious reasons, but because it makes no sense.
Okay.
But the age of the universe, I think the universe is whatever 15 billion years old, and that whenever the Big Bang occurred is when the universe began, and the 6 days of creation are either referring to the beginning of creation at that time, so unlikely, but probably referring to the beginning of this cycle of creation. In other words, the Gemara says that Kadosh Baruch Hu boneh olamot machrivan. Hashem builds worlds and destroys them. And according to the Tiferet Yisrael, who's a major commentary in the Mishnayot, we're in the 4th cycle of existence of humanity in this world, where the world has been destroyed and recreated several times. Just if you, there was a mad scientist, very famous fellow named Velikovsky, who wrote books in the 1950s and 60s, who later was proven to be right on many things he wrote. And he wrote that nothing to do with Judaism, that one of the disasters which brought one cycle of existence to an end and killed the dinosaurs was when a huge meteor or comet hit what is now called the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. If you look at it, it's a huge crater. So at first people thought it was crazy, but later on scientists came around to that way of understanding. So the world can, according to a very significant strain of thought in Judaism, is not here for the first time. The Torah was given the first time now, but it's not here for the first time, and therefore, once you go back and you say that the Torah sources that the world has been here more than 5,777 years old, so whether it's a million or 15 billion doesn't really make a difference, because we know that that was not the beginning.
So when did God create Adam and Eve? Is that
This cycle.
This cycle.
Yeah.
6,000 years ago.
Yeah.
So the whole thing with the dinosaurs, that falls into, well, it's one of the first 3 cycles.
Otherwise, we have no fossil fuels.
Is the fact that this whole idea of cycles that actually shows up in the Torah? This is the 4th cycle.
You have to define Torah. Torah is a very broad term. It's not in the Chumash. It's not in the Navi. It's in Midrashim.
So it's tradition.
Yeah, it goes back a couple of thousand years.
But how come
A couple of thousand
never
years.
mentioned anything about?
This is not like
It's about
from the
Torah, about
beginning
Peh.
when it all just started, when everyone was at Mount Sinai and Moses went up there and people got scared shitless and they said, you go instead of us, and he went and he came back with everything.
I'm not sure what you're asking.
Saying when was that tradition given over? At Mount Sinai or after?
We have no idea. But the point is, Rabbi Ari Kaplan makes. He says, if the answer precedes the question, you're in pretty good shape. In other words, it's not that somebody said science has a question on Judaism. Let's find an answer, and we'll make up an answer and say that it's more than 5,777 years old because of X, Y, Z. No, 1,000 years, 1,500 years before the question was asked, the answer was already written in Midrashim. So therefore, how far back it goes, I can't tell you, but when it was stated, it was not an answer to any challenge. It was a given So therefore, it's not something which is kind of like apologizing, apologetics after the fact. It's a tradition in Judaism. You have to bear in mind, most things in Judaism, except for the 13 principles of the Rambam, are subject to machloket. They're subject to disagreement. Right? There are very few things in Judaism which a person must actually accept to be true. And I think HaKadosh Baruch Hu designed the world that way with deliberate ambiguity in order to allow for different approaches. So therefore, this is one of the things, the age of the universe, where there is no definitive approach which you must accept. And therefore, there are many different approaches.
The age of the universe, you don't have to accept it.
Sorry?
The age of the universe.
You don't have to accept it. Right. That's what I'm saying.
But there's evidence for it.
No, I'm saying the Torah doesn't require a specific belief. What scientific evidence is, I'm not discussing. I'm saying the Torah doesn't require a specific belief.
So it's not in those 13 principles, and so
No.
everything else besides those 13 principles is open to discussion.
Yes.
Open to interpretation.
Absolutely.
So why don't you explain to them the 13 principles? Because I don't think they understand or know what they are.
Yeah, let's discuss those. Because the other day, the reason
First page.
I was watching a movie about Kareems that. Huh?
A what?
That's like,
The abridged versions.
Oh, you want me to read in Russian?
No, the Hebrew on the left.
Okay, so I will translate.
Looking zombies is one of them.
I believe with complete belief in the 13 principles of the Holy Torah, and these are they. Now, they're not 100% accurate here. This is because somebody compiled them. And you have to look at the Rambam inside in order to get the precise definitions, but we'll go with what it says here for now. The first one is Kadosh Baruch Hu Matzui Mashgiach, that Hashem exists and he pays attention to the world. On what level? That's not stated here, but in general, he pays attention. V'hu echad, that there's only one God. That's the second principle. Ve'en lo guf, ve'en lo demut haguf. He has no body, nor does he have anything which resembles a body. No, it's not even a spiritual form. That's number 3. Number 4, V'shu kadmon l'chol k'dumim. He is the most ancient of all entities, meaning that he is the one who created everything else. Number 5, Ein avodah l'zulato. One may not worship anything besides Hashem. Number 6, V'yodeh machshavot b'nei adam. He knows people's thoughts. It's really that that's not a precise definition, but okay, we'll leave it. Number 7, Unuvuat Moshe Rabbeinu Alav Shalom Bemet. The prophecy of Moshe Rabbeinu is true. Number 8, Shuadon Chongvim, and that there are other forms of prophecy, which other Nevi'im had, which are not as great as Moshe Rabbeinu, but also are prophecies. Number 9, Shatorah Netunah Min Hashamayim, that the Torah is given from heaven. Number 10, Shalot Tishtaneh B'Shum Zman Chas V'Shalom, that it will never change at any time. Number 11, Shakadosh Baruch Hu Manish L'Rashaim Shalem Sachal Tov Tzadikim. Hashem punishes the wicked and rewards the righteous. Number 12, She'avo Melech HaMashiach, that Mashiach will eventually come. Number 13, Shametim Atidim Le'chayot, that the dead will come back to life.
So it doesn't say anywhere the Shabbat and all the other stuff. The Shut.
It doesn't. Those are not principles of belief. Those are activities one has to do. They're separate.
Where'd they come from?
I'm sorry?
Where'd they come from?
Where does what come from? These 13 principles?
No. Well, let's start with the principles and the activities.
The principles, the Rambam derives all of them from Psukim in Tanakh.
But Rambam was a human being.
Right, that's why people disagree with him. But there are a few people disagree on certain principles, but by and large, everybody agrees that if you look at the Psukim in Tanakh, this is what Hashem has said are the principles of Judaism.
Said to who?
Said to either Moshe Rabbeinu or other prophets. If you don't have, that's what the Rambam says, if you don't believe in prophecy, you have a big problem with Judaism. You have to believe that Hashem communicates with human beings in order for Judaism to be viable.
You have to believe it.
Yeah.
It's not a fact.
But of course, if you believe, how do you define a fact?
Well, I'll explain it to you.
Yeah.
Me and my cousin have this we keep on going back and forth.
Yeah.
And the question is, does God exist? Okay? He says to me, it's a fact God exists. I say to him, It's a belief that God exists.
You're right.
Understand the difference?
Yeah, you're right.
He doesn't get the difference.
I'm sorry.
So I don't, and that's where our disconnect is.
Yeah.
Because he feels sorry for me because I say I believe God exists because there's a leap that you have to make from everything that supports that he exists and to the actual fact that he actually exists.
Correct.
Because just because there's things supporting a fact doesn't always make it true.
Right.
So you tell me, I mean, he tells me God exists, it's a fact.
He's wrong. You're right.
Interesting.
Oh,
I need to call him right now.
You know this conversation is being recorded.
Yeah.
You know what? You need to send that to me. And then he'll bring his rabbi who'll tell you that you're wrong.
Okay.
Well, that settles it. Wow.
except there's no, you're 33%.
You're the 33%. This is, so, well, here's the thing. You're saying I'm right. He speaks to his own rabbis or whoever he speaks to, he says, no, it's a fact God exists.
Why do you think Shlomo brought me here tonight, not that other
I have no
rabbi?
idea.
That's why.
Okay, so that's what, it's interesting. Last time, the last person we spoke to also has said that he exists for a fact, right?
The way you're defining fact, it's not a fact. Well, many people define facts as things they believe.
Right.
From that perspective, I think it might just be a difference of opinion in semantics. I'm not sure, but let's say we both believe that there's a place called Afghanistan. Have we ever? Neither of us have been to Afghanistan.
Right, but either one of us can get on a plane and fly over there.
Yes, but that's still a belief. But
So you can get on a plane and fly.
you didn't. As long as you didn't go there, you believe that Afghanistan exists.
It's only when you get to Afghanistan you say it's factual that you're
Yes,
there.
but according to you, it's only a fact for you that Afghanistan exists when you get off the plane.
That's what you're saying.
No, but you can see it in the map.
No.
like-
What do you mean, see the map? So maybe somebody made up the map.
Maybe.
According to that, there's a movie in which they find the Aron Kodesh and they open it up and everybody dies. Raiders of the Lost Ark, right? Is that a fact? Does that make it a fact? No. So everything, who knows? The maps could be made up too.
Okay, agreed.
So therefore, but it's not rational to believe the maps are made up. That's why that belief for you is factual. If it's rational to believe that God exists, so some people call that a fact. You call it a belief. It's fine. But again, most things we know as beliefs. Because most things we know we never experienced and we never will experience.
So then we can both agree that God may not exist.
Yes, but that it's more likely that he does exist. Just like it's more likely that Afghanistan exists.
Well, we can actually fly to Afghanistan. We
Again,
can't do the same with flying to God.
Afghanistan was not a good example.
you
Well,
get
that's the thing,
It's
though.
an excellent example.
It's an excellent example, but
No,
you
but
can
you
actually
cannot-
confirm that.
let's take George Washington.
Okay.
Did George Washington exist? How do you know?
He existed.
How do you know? You can't fly to George Washington.
We can't fly to him. We do have the monuments, but then again, that's not a big deal.
Right.
I mean, it's a human being, not a whole entity that created the whole universe, kind of thing. There's a big difference.
You're on the defensive now. You know
At the
that.
same time,
No.
we know that Harry Potter never existed. But,
Huh?
we have this Harry Potter guy, that we watch movies and read books and stuff like that. We know that he has never existed. It's a fairy tale.
Right.
So how it makes George Washington different? Like if you're gonna look at it, maybe he's like a Harry Potter, like he has never existed.
It's all based on witnesses and history and everything,
You can
There are
touch those
things-
documents, you can test them.
Right, there are things that happen in history
We
that
still have his bones around? I gotta look
Probably,
into that.
yeah.
next.
False teeth.
False teeth?
Yeah.
Close enough.
Doesn't
At least we
matter.
have that.
Find some. I'll just find you somebody who we don't have any remains of. Julius Caesar.
Okay.
Okay, Julius Caesar. Maybe Shakespeare made him up. He wrote a play about him and made him up.
You know what? I'll give you that.
Okay, so therefore, the belief that Julius Caesar existed is a historical belief, and the belief that God existed is also historical belief.
Okay, so we're both open to the possibility that Caesar may never have existed. It's
Right.
a fiction of somebody's
Right.
imagination.
Right,
Just like the Jewish God.
right, but it's unlikely. There's
Why is that
there's
like
You're
overwhelming.
getting defensive now.
No.
But you see, where
No.
both could be a fiction.
No, because I believe personally
Right.
that the greatest source of human knowledge is history, because history is things which occurred, and if they're collaborated by a significant amount of people, so then it's rational to believe that they occurred.
Rational to believe.
Rational.
Okay. And I've told my cousin that. I'll give you that there's evidence to support the idea or the fact that God exists. When you talk about, and one of the arguments is, how could they have known 5,000 years ago when the Torah was written that there would be 3 to 4 trick animals that you cannot eat, like the pig where he has the split hooves but you can't have it, it's not kosher, and then the rabbit, the hare, and all this stuff. The fish with the scales and the fin and all this other stuff. How could they have known evidence to support something divine? Fine, I'll give you that.
But right now we're on the same page, right? That God is like Julius Caesar. We can go. We
We
can
can
agree on
go.
it. Okay, fine.
Right.
That's right.
But it's not a fact though. He may exist, he may not exist.
Okay.
He may be a really good concept.
You mean
that
it's
someone
not something
really
which
smart created.
it's
or
not
really-
something which you have personally observed.
Me personally, I haven't observed.
Right. That's my
I
point.
don't know anyone who has.
Right. So you're saying that nobody, as long as you haven't believed anything which you have not established by personal observation, you don't call fact. You call that
No.
belief.
No.
No.
I also didn't observe Holocaust, but I believe it happened. We
Why?
have evidence to support it. Actually.
Because there's evidence.
There's evidence.
Right. So there's a vast category of things which fall into the area of things we believe because there's evidence. Some of them with more evidence, some of them with less evidence. But it's the same category.
Right, but it's
What do you consider evidence? Picture, video, a witness, like a statement,
No,
something written.
no single source is sufficient evidence in and of itself, which is one of the reasons the Torah always requires 2 witnesses, because you need some form of corroboration in order to validate something. So therefore, when you have what we call a preponderance of evidence, which means numerous sources which seem to indicate the same thing, that is evidence that something really took place, or that something is really true. But so
not
therefore,
necessarily it being a fact.
what?
That doesn't necessarily mean it's a fact, though.
Again, you have to.
100 people could say they saw one thing. You would tend to believe that that's probably what happened because 100 people said so. But one person could actually be telling the truth, and it's a completely different story. And he may be actually telling the fact.
It might be.
And that's right.
Right.
So we agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we do agree on some level, and you say what I say, that it's unlikely, but like God could be like Julius Caesar, a fiction of Shakespeare's imagination.
Right.
Okay,
It's possible.
it's possible.
Right. Unlikely.
I'll,
Do you think it's
but it is
likely?
possible.
Do you think it's likely?
I don't know.
That's the thing. Nobody knows.
I don't know.
What do you mean don't know?
I
You can't look at the evidence and come to a conclusion?
to the evidence that God actually exists.
Yes.
I can find more evidence
Okay.
that George Washington existed than.
I don't think you can actually.
Well, I think there's more.
I don't think you can. I don't think if David HaMelech said, "Mibsariach zeh Eloka," from my own flesh I perceive God. If you look at the wonders of the human body, of how things work, you break down hearing and seeing and digestion and reproduction and all these amazing things,
Right.
there has to be a designer. There's no say cat doesn't work without a
How do we
designer.
know we weren't aliens?
Okay, well, so you're agreed to a designer, it's just you want to assume that they're aliens.
Right.
Oh, okay, fine. Is
Not
that more
something
rational than
divine-
God?
Not something divine and out of this world that exists in all time and existed, but something from another.
Who
planet
designed
that
the
came-
aliens?
That can see now you're going to who designed the aliens. I don't know, some other aliens.
That's what the Chavot al-Vavot, his proof of God, his philosophical proof of God, is that there must be a first cause. He says that first cause is God. Because you can go back to aliens, to aliens, to aliens, eventually you have to get to the first cause. That first cause is God.
Or it's something
which
that we
is
just
a-
can't explain.
Yes.
Theoretical, whether call it a deduction, a hunch, call it whatever you want, but it's still a philosophical, I should say, deduction then, but not necessarily a fact.
You really, I conceded
am
to the
bothered
point
now,
already,
tell you
okay? But now I don't understand why you don't agree that the preponderance of evidence is that one should believe in God.
You want to believe in God because there's preponderance of evidence.
Mm-hmm.
Even if there's preponderance of evidence that God exists, let's say, is the ultimate fact that we want to be sure of, right?
You can't be sure of it.
You can't be sure of it.
No, you can be 99% sure, but
but-
not 100%.
I mean, we're going to come back to what we already agreed, that there is the possibility that he just doesn't exist,
Mm-hmm.
right? Unlikely,
Mm-hmm.
but possible.
Right.
Okay. I got the answer to my question.
Okay, good.
All right.
Okay, you mentioned earlier you don't believe in evolution. Can you elaborate on that?
It just makes no sense. Evolution can occur if God.
Wait. So let me give you a perfect example. When you speak evolution, right? We see dogs mating and having different breeds, and you have big dog, then they become these tiny dogs. So, but I'm not actually how breeding works, but I do think like
That's called
the
that.
species of dogs.
That's not the evolution we're talking
It's not
about.
evolution, but it's changing
Right.
in
Genetically
species.
modifying dogs.
Right.
GMO.
Yes, you can get to if dogs mated and all of a sudden they got a new organ, right? The liver and spleen, and now they had something else. So that would be a complex organ which came into being. That would be evolution in the sense I'm using it. That we don't have.
Okay, do you not have any proofs on
I-
that? Or how do you
No, it's just to me the evidence is lacking for evolution. I think it's just made up. I don't see any evidence of microevolution, that things change over time. That is true. In other words, that you have changes in dogs, you have changes in horses, you have other types of changes. People have different skin colors, people have different traits. That happens. But that organs can come into being from scratch, there's no evidence. Complex organs and organisms,
That's not
complex
evolution.
systems.
That's abiogenesis. You're confusing
Right.
one with the other.
No, I'm not.
That's
I'm
evolution.
not confusing them. I understand. I'm
You
using
are.
every.
No,
No,
evolution is
I know the
changed over
difference.
time.
I know the difference.
Okay.
I just a biogenesis. Most people use the evolution in the sense of including a biogenesis. That's how I was using the
No,
term.
abiogenesis is the origin of life. That's something completely different from evolution.
But okay, I don't disagree. So therefore, I'm not going to disagree.
So for you to say that I don't believe in evolution when you just said that yes, there's macro and micro evolution or whatever.
I didn't say no matter.
Change over time.
Why you-
Yes, there's
why-
change over time, then that's called evolution.
Why are you so upset about this?
I'm not upset about it. You made a statement, and I'm
You're correcting me. I accept it.
okay.
Okay, so what do you mean by evolution? Do you agree that whatever biogenesis that you mentioned exists, or
No, biogenesis. We agree. What I say is doesn't exist. A biogenesis, things are not come spontaneously into being.
okay, but once they did, can they evolve?
They might. I'm not sure how. Not sure why you want to believe. To what extent? Fruit fly. I don't believe necessarily fruit flies became house flies. I'm not sure how that would happen. If you want to believe that, you can in Judaism, but I just don't see what the reason or rationale is.
Why do people have a need to believe in God, and why do you personally believe? Why do you need this? Why you personally need this feeling, like this belief, and why people have this need to believe in something, not in something, in God?
In higher powers.
Yes.
You-
Is it
you-
because
I'm not comfortable with that question, because you're assuming that it's a belief in God is emotional, not rational. I don't think belief in God is emotional. It's for many people it is, but I don't think it should be. In other words, you should come to believe in God not because you need God.
how do you come to this conclusion that first you need this belief and then you believe?
No. What do you mean need belief? You mean why human beings created with a need for God?
Yes, you can put it this way. Not all human beings, but most.
Because God created man with Tselem Elohim. God created man with divinity. And therefore the divinity within man looks for the divinity outside of man. It's the tendency which God implanted within us. Otherwise, perhaps it makes no sense. But that is the intrinsic part of the human character is the quest
No, I
for
see
something
many people
divine.
come to religion because most of the people come to religion because there's something like instability inside of them, and they are looking for a way to calm themselves and feel relaxed and free, and they find it in religion. Others get
You-
to
you-
religion
can I-
when one of the parents pass away,
Right.
and they start going to synagogue for prayers, and they get into this, and
Right.
they feel comfortable. So why do people?
Most people are morons, right? Most people don't think.
Especially that.
They need an impetus to get them thinking, something to start them thinking. So, what?
No.
So what happens is that most people don't think until something divine, profoundly tragic or profoundly moving happens to them. Then they start thinking, because most people who go through life just go through life on autopilot. So what do you expect? So that's why you have to have for most people something which will turn to light the ignition in order to get them to start thinking. But that doesn't mean they couldn't have gotten there otherwise. It's just till then they never thought. They never had need to think.
I don't know. I look at it this way: when you are a child, when you are hurt, you feel when you feel bad, you turn into you ask for help, like you cry, "Mama, Papa." And when you are grown, when you feel bad and you just have this need for a help, and then you're looking for ways, and you turn yourself into God.
You know, how many people do you know that who don't suffer a tragedy or some sort of even a happy occasion, who think, what am I here for? What's the purpose of life? What is my mission in this world? Why possibly could it exist?
But the problem
They do?
why do we
They watch
search
television.
for
They don't
here?
think about that.
They do know. There's
So
people
what's
who
the
think
purpose
about
of
that.
life?
Most people not.
Most people do not.
Most people not. It's not about most people. There are a few people. Baruch Hashem, you're here tonight. You think about these things. Most people don't think about these things.
So what is the purpose of life?
Oh, that's a good question.
To come back again.
There is no single answer, but the closest to single answer is to become a creator like God is creative.
So if we create something in our own lives, we achieve something,
So why
Like-
do we?
So kind of by
invented
definition,
something.
That's divine.
That's divine. So by definition,
We should be artists.
as long as you
No,
have a bunch
be-
of kids,
You
No,
have created
no,
something.
because
You
that's
have made them good Jews.
you're good to go.
creative means in the sense of doing good for others and for
You cannot
not
be
just
co-created.
if you bring a child into the world and then you leave the child on their own, you are a bad person.
So what if you?
Right. I
If
mean,
you
I'm
have
not talking
15
about
kids
that.
So it's an
and you live
ongoing
life-
process,
I'm
right?
not talking about
Right, but having children is part and parcel of this notion of being good to others. Yes.
Right.
Okay, it happens to be that some people mess up very dramatically on that, but that is theoretically part of the idea.
So holding kashrut, Shabbat.
It's part of being good.
But why is it supposed to be so hard? Like, not hard, but like
It's hard.
limiting yourself in all these things that technically 21st century turning on the phone does not really. I don't see it's a job. Like me and my brother, we're very close, but we have different views in life. Like he thinks that Shabbat is Shabbat, where you turn off your phone. You turn off all your electronic devices. You spend the day with the family, with wife, with parents, with nieces, nephews. That's
Sounds
it.
beautiful.
But you
Beautiful.
can do it with
I'm
amazing.
not,
That's
judging.
beautiful,
I'm not challenging him. Great. For me,
It's a torture.
Shabbat is the day off, and I understand it differently. If it's a day off for me, I have to enjoy it. I don't have to restrict myself to, I cannot turn off the light. I cannot, turn on my phone. Or I cannot do this or that. Like, it's a day off. I want to enjoy it. For me, day off and enjoying it, turn on the TV. I don't know, like, check something online, drive with the
Yes.
kids to the park. Do something that, I can enjoy the day and remember it and, have a good
Okay,
feeling about it.
so I'm going to take a very extreme position on this for the moment, which is not really my position, but I like using it. There was a rabbi named Rabbi Soloveitchik, a very great rabbi of the 20th century, who was once asked to speak to a bunch of youngsters, teenagers, about restraint, which of course teenagers don't like, be restrained in their activities. And he said to them, and this is a great person, like 65 years old, speaking to a bunch of teenagers, what's he going to say? So he says to them, there was a secular philosopher of religion, whose name was William James, who said the purpose of religion is happiness. Now, religion's purpose is to make people happy. right?
Not to control them.
So, no, he's talking about religion in the positive sense. In other words, it's not in the Stalin-esque mode. So so Rabbi Soloveitchik said, in Judaism, we couldn't care less if you're happy. We're not interested in you being happy. We're interested in you being a hero and being somebody who's a champion, a hero, a person of great accomplishment. And he says, when you're trying to train, let's say, an athletic champion of some sort, so then the training is very rigorous, and there are many things that the champion, that this champion, this hero in training, has to refrain from, far more that he has to refrain from than things he can indulge in. As a matter of fact, he can indulge in very few things. He has to refrain from most things. He can indulge in very little of the time. He has to train most of the time. So he said, in Judaism, it's like the Marines. He doesn't use this, but the Marines used to have a slogan, they probably still do, be all you can be. So that means, in Judaism, it's about being all you can be. And in order to build character, you have to have training. And training requires sacrifice. And sacrifice requires more prohibitions than positive commandments. Because that's what makes a person not just, it makes a person strong, builds character, and it builds a person into a hero. So now, of course, what he does, what's left unsaid, is that a hero who actually becomes a hero, a champion athlete who becomes a champion athlete, has that happiness and exhilaration of accomplishment, which he would not have had from indulging along the way. So that's what Judaism is about. It's about that heroism, to create a person who is a master of himself, a master, a role model for society, somebody who is intent on doing good, and somebody who's focused on that. And that requires a lot of training.
Not easy.
No, it's
I mean,
supposed to be hard.
Nobody said it's going to be easy.
No, it's supposed to be hard.
So let me follow up with that question then. So let's say everything you said about training and becoming a hero is righteous cause. Why then, when we read the Bible, there's always this concept of if you do this, you will die. If you do that, you will die. Especially Shabbat, right? You pick up a stone, then it's Hayav Midah. We're gonna kill you. Meaning you serve terminating the person before he starts on his journey, or if he's in the middle of his journey. Like a person is training for Olympics, and he takes a little break. He indulges, saying that's it. Your race is over is depressing as a thought, I guess.
Well, there are two answers to that. There are probably more, but
Is my question clear?
Yes. There are at least two answers. There are probably more than the two answers I'm going to give you, but I'm going to give you just two for now, which are that there's the individual response, which is that very rarely do any individuals actually get put to death, even though the Torah speaks about death penalties all over. And in fact, throughout the history of the Jewish people, the death penalty has been almost never imposed, even when we could impose it, and certainly not in the last 2,000 years. So therefore, the punishments which are described are in order to demonstrate to us how severe the crime is, not necessarily to be imposed. We have the same example in any legal system throughout the world, that a death penalty could be on the books, but it's very rarely actually executed, because there are all sorts of factors which mitigate it, especially in Jewish law, where there have to be two witnesses who warn the person, and he has to say, I understand the warning, I'm doing it anyway. The coming to a death penalty for Shabbos is highly, highly unlikely. That's on an individual level. On the other hand, on a societal level, Judaism is not just concerned with the individual. That's what we speak about till now, but Judaism is even more concerned with the society. We're told in last week's parasha, "V'atem tiyu li mamlechet kohanim v'goy kadosh." The Hashem is concerned with us as a nation, and therefore, in order for a nation to have the proper cohesion and the proper atmosphere, so therefore, certain things have to be punished severely in order that the society be conducted in the best possible fashion.
Okay. If science can explain, let's say, most of the things in the world that we have, from creation, how the world began.
Well, science can't explain anything.
Well, it can't say anything is a broad term. To get
Well,
explain certain
science can explain a lot of things.
No, Nothing.
Yes, they can explain
And
how cells functions. I don't know.
Right.
A lot of things. How
Good.
food gets metabolized in your body.
Right. So, but you're right, 100% right. So there's a fascinating debate you can watch on YouTube between Richard Dawkins, who's the high priest of uh, anti of atheism, basically, and the former chief rabbi of the British Empire, Jonathan Sacks. And one of the fascinating things is fascinating in the debate, and I think Jonathan Sacks really wins the debate. But one of the fascinating points of the debate is that Jonathan Sacks says to Richard Dawkins, he says, well, science explains the what and the how, but doesn't explain the why. And Dawkins says, why? Why is not a legitimate question. There is no why. There is only what and how. There is no why to anything, which makes sense if you're an atheist. If you're an atheist or a scientist who deals in science itself, there's no because. That's the way it is. There's how and there's what, but there's no why. So when I say science can't answer the questions, it cannot answer the question of why, which is what really human beings want to know. Why things are the way they are. What and how are nice.
Actually not. First you ask why, and then you start researching, and this is science.
No, first you ask what or how. You don't ask why in science. He's right, Richard Dawkins. There's no why. You can't answer why.
What's the debate you said? Him and who else? The rabbi?
Jonathan Sacks.
Jonathan Sacks and Richard Dawkins.
It's exactly the same as this gentleman was explaining. He's arguing with his cousin, and he was talking about other rabbis, and you said they are wrong, and he is right. Same thing, you're giving us an example of the scientists talking, having a conversation. And if you talk to other scientists, they will say, okay, he's wrong. There is why.
But give me an example.
I'm just telling you that.
No, I understand. Give me an
scientists,
example.
You're giving us a specific conversation
Yeah.
between two scientists.
Sure, disprove me.
But other scientists can say, no, you are wrong, there is why.
Okay, so what would they say? On what basis would they say that?
Because there is why.
On the
First you
basis-
start with why, and then you do researches. It's a common sense.
You
You
want
don't research something without asking first why.
the why question, which they're asking, is really a how question. And a how question is how does this happen?
Is after you start your research, then you ask
All right, so
how it
let's
works.
go with an
Once you
example.
find out why, then you work on how.
Newton was sitting on the
Yes.
tree, right? That's what they always said. Newton was sitting on the tree, and was it an apple or I don't know what, an apple tree, right?
Yeah.
The apple fell, and then he looked up, says, "Why the apple fell on my head?"
Right.
And so obviously it was a question why, right? It wasn't what happened. What was the question? How did it fall? All right, what was the question they need to ask themselves?
What he asked was what force causes this to fall?
Which is not why.
Which is not why.
Why did it fall?
If you ask sometimes, you can, in Hebrew, the question is lama, for what? In other words, what happened in order for this to fall? In other words, there must be something there which caused it to fall, some force. And then he identified gravity as a force. Why there should be gravity? Why gravity exists? Why such a force exists at all? That would be a why question which Newton cannot answer. Why there should be strong forces, why there should be weak forces, why somehow there is the forces which work within a molecule or an atom work. Nobody can understand that because science can't answer why. It can describe what to amazing detail, but it can't explain ultimately why. Watch, it's interesting, in learning Torah, there's also this big difference of opinion between schools of opinion which hold that you can only ask what, you can't ask why, and the schools of thought in learning Torah which say that you should always ask why. And there's a tremendous difference of opinion between these different schools of thought. And I'm, of course, like the school of thought which does allow you to ask why. So there is no such thing as again, we mistake. What happens is that if what is very elegant, then what seems to be why. But the real why, the real reasons for things, that's something which you cannot define with science. You have to look to some metaphysical perspective, which is why till relatively recently, great scientists were great believers in God. They might not have been believers in organized religion, but they were great believers in God.
And wasn't that the Galileo who said, how did he put it? You know, the Bible tells us how to go to heaven, but not how the heavens go.
I never heard that. That's cute.
So, you know, it's science, and then there's, you know, Bible.
They used to be called physics versus metaphysics. Metaphysics means that which is greater than physics, and every physics has a metaphysics behind it.
And, you know, if you concern yourself with, you know, those types of questions, then yeah, by all means.
If you want to know
You
why
know,
you're
if you wanna
alive,
know how to go to heaven.
no. The question of Judaism is not how to get to heaven.
Live in this world.
Judaism,
This world works.
I sense here some sort of underlying issue with the question of how to get to heaven, and I agree with you. The question is not how to get to heaven. The question is how to live on this earth. So you don't know how to live on this earth by science alone. You won't get anywhere with that.
Well, there are different philosophies.
Yes, philosophy is not science, right? It used to be, by the way. It used to be that philosophers were scientists and scientists were philosophers. In the 1800s, unfortunately, the two separated. And the scientists decided, to heck with philosophy,
Rightfully so.
baby. But now that doesn't mean that you can have one without the other and live a holistic life. Science without philosophy can lead to Nazism, just same like anything else.
Okay, genocide.
And, you know, so can religion.
So can Judaism
do some crazy things.
Yes.
You know, look at the current problems in the Middle East.
Religion's a dangerous thing.
Right.
But it's certainly the thought of why a person is here has to accompany what's going on in the world.
So if I may, if anybody else said it. So let's go into read the, you know, if you go through the Bible, it sounds like there's a genocide that God sort of mandates against nations, right?
Where is there a genocide?
What?
Where is there such a genocide?
No?
No.
Shoftim. You know, God says, hey, you're going to the land of Israel, there are these Canaanites, 7 nations, you make sure you wipe them up, you know.
Only if they don't accept the 7 mitzvahs b'nei Noach.
Okay, nevertheless, you know, God says, wipe out nations, right?
So if a nation, first of all, no nation is automatically destroyed. Every nation is supposed to be taught the Sheva Mitzvot b'nei Noach. And the Sheva Mitzvot b'nei Noach are basically the basis of civil society. If a country does not agree to live according to the principles of civil society, then it's a problem to leave them around. But Yeshua gave them a choice before he entered Israel. He said either accept Sheva Mitzvot b'nei Noach or leave.
On those? Can you just,
Sheva Mitzvot b'nei Noach, they're to believe in God, to not eat limbs of live animals, not to murder, not to steal, not to commit adultery. I forgot what count them up
Limbs
to.
of live animals?
Sorry?
Limbs of
So you cut off an arm of a cow and you eat the arm while the cow's still alive. It's torture, basically.
Tzar Baalei Chaim,
But we eat all these microorganisms that are technically alive. When you bring that,
Water?
no, kefir, that or
Yogurt.
yogurts or whatever. I mean, all these microorganisms.
They don't have limbs.
Okay, but they're alive.
Eating the whole as a whole. The whole organism.
There's no parts.
And there is the other one is that they should set up a court system, a system of laws, and some add to that list that they are forbidden to castrate animals or human beings. What? Animals too.
So you can't
So
get
when
dog
you neuter your
fixed?
cat, you're done. Annihilation.
No, it's a prohibition. It's not one of the basic Shem Mitzvah Peinoch. They won't kill some in the society if they castrate their animals, but they're not supposed to do it. The other ones are basic.
Oh, you know what? I had a question. And I asked the Shlomi the other day, and I don't remember his response. It's a simpler question. How come by the Jewish law you cannot make hybrids, but you can eat hybrid? Like you can eat grapefruit or all those hybrid citruses that made in Israel.
First of all, any citrus is you can crossbreed citrus fruit. You can't crossbreed across different types of fruit.
Well, if you will take grape and you will mix it with cherries, and there's going to be a new type of grape that will be sour as cherry, for instance. So it's not.
Yeah, you can eat it.
So it's allowed to do it.
No, it's not allowed to do it, but you
Like,
can
you
eat it.
can eat it.
Yeah.
So what's the question is, how come you are allowed to eat it, but you're not allowed to do it?
It's a good question. There is no one answer for that. One of the things that the Torah does not tell us is the reason for most mitzvot. And there's a book called the Sefer HaChinuch, which is a book from the 13th century, in which he goes through all the mitzvot and gives reasons for them as to how they refine human character, how they make people better people. I forget at the moment what he says about kilayim, the mitzvah you're speaking about, but we can look it up and see what he
That's a
says.
good question.
What?
We have Taryag mitzvot that was kind of like Sefer Chinuch.
Right. Okay. So you can look it up and find it. I don't remember.
Very,
But the point is that there are different systems in which the tamei mitzvot, the reason for mitzvahs, are given different perspectives. And one of them, the one I like the most, is that all mitzvot were given to refine human character. Other systems say that mitzvot were given in order to bring holiness down into the world. Other systems say that mitzvot are given to educate us about what is God is about and what the world is about. Others say that some mitzvot have no intrinsic reason. They're part of developing a uniform society, which just like in an army, you have to have a certain form of discipline, which creates cohesion. So too, not all mitzvot have intrinsic reasons, but they're designed to create cohesion. So again, because it's not one of the 13 principles of the Rambam, why the mitzvot are given to us, the different systems, let's explain them in different ways. Again, I prefer the system, and I'm being honest with you, I don't remember what he says of that. It's that all mitzvot are given to refine people.
Yes, I have a very disrespectful question in many ways, but it might offend you. If you follow mitzvot and it makes you a better person, it makes you, basically it's a guidance for you to become a better person, correct? So if you follow mitzvot, it makes you one of the, I don't know, in my world, it makes you racist. If you cannot, let's say, Jews have...
Are you on Facebook?
I am on Facebook. Yeah.
Okay, so I have an organization on Facebook.
Okay.
It's called Orthodox Jews Against Discrimination and Racism.
Okay.
You want to join?
I will take a look.
Okay.
No, but listen, my question is,
We have 2,100 members.
if you follow kashrut,
What?
basic stuff, if you follow kashrut, it makes you racist because you cannot. Yes, it does.
Okay, what's the question?
Yeah, what's your question?
Basically, if
By the way, what's your name?
Yefim.
If you don't join tonight, I'm
Uh-huh.
coming after you. Yeah.
Okay. Let's say food was prepared by a non-Jew, you cannot eat it.
Yeah.
Even though the contents of the
I was racist.
because he is a non-Jew, you cannot eat it. It's not racist.
So it is
Preference, you don't have to.
I mean,
No, but it's against your religion technically. It's not the preference.
like the Orthodox Jew will never eat if it was not cooked by another Jew, or he will never eat grapes or milk or something that
Even from a Jew.
So
Yeah.
you know most of these
Well, not racist, but still.
most of these prohibitions, the rabbi, not from the Torah itself.
Mhm.
The rabbis enacted them when Jews went into Galut, and they said we have to maintain the national identity of Jews in a place where there is no national land with which to identify. So therefore, they came up with many, many laws to keep the national identity of Jews as a separate nation.
Can Judaism and democracy coexist?
Judaism can coexist with everything. I happen to be a socialist. So,
Let's go that part.
yeah.
You just lost everybody.
No, but in a democratic society, technically, you have to be acceptable. You have to accept all cultures and all nations and all foods. And I mean, basically, you have to be.
Yes, until the coming of Mashiach, and we can demonstrate dramatic with a dramatic and clear. Let me give back. The Chazon Ish, one of the great sages, the first part of the 20th century, said, once upon a time there were laws that somebody who didn't believe in God, you could put them down into a pit, and then draw the ladder up after them. You couldn't kill them directly, but you could lure them to their death. He said that doesn't apply for 2,000 years. He says that only applies in a time when the hashgacha of Hashem, the divine control of Hashem, is clear. There are sages who clearly have divine inspiration. There's a Beit HaMikdash where miracles occur. Then if somebody's obstinate, then you can say, you know what, forget it. Let's put him down into the pit.
Same thing as.
Wait a minute. So that won't apply until Mashiach comes.
Okay.
So now, in our day and age, what else can we have besides a democracy?
Socialism.
Now, when I say socialism, I mean a welfare state. I believe that universal health insurance, stuff like that. Universal health insurance is a dictatorship?
No, you don't.
So basically, you say you can't line, the religion until Mashiach comes.
What?
You can't. Didn't you say? Didn't you just say that you can't lie?
Lie?
Yeah. You said that. What was the?
You can't put somebody to death.
You can't.
You can't cause somebody to die
Because of religion.
because of religion.
You can't kill somebody on religious basis.
Okay, can I ask you a question? You know the answer probably, but I need to know this too. We're not allowed, a religious Jewish person does not allow to eat shrimp soup. How come we are allowed, religious person is allowed to drink water? Fresh water. Fresh water contains all non-kosher,
Particles of all
yeah,
these
like,
shellfish.
yes.
Yes, anything which you can't see you can only see under a microscope, doesn't exist in terms of Jewish law. So that's why if you wanted to genetically modify a tomato with pork,
But the water we drink, the fresh water, it's coming from reservoirs where you have all those sea,
yeah, but by the time it gets into the
not most of them, it's the same thing, but by the time it gets what?
to your mouth, there's no shrimp in it.
If you remove shrimp from the soup,
Okay,
it's
so
okay to drink.
if I put a
What?
shrimp on a kosher
It's
plate
not-
and then I take a shrimp out, is this plate still kosher?
It depends. If it was hot, cold, there are a bunch of different
Hot
holidays.
and cold, it's still kosher?
If it's cold, yes.
If the
Oh,
shrimp,
wait. Yeah.
okay, I gotta
The
tell
plate,
you
not the
why.
shrimp.
Wait.
It's plate.
Hey, what's going on?
No, the plate. Close call there.
So the shrimp is cold, then the plate is full kosher if the shrimp is cold.
Yeah.
So you don't need to eat it on a plastic.
Same thing. Anything cold.
Wait, pork, same thing. Oh.
I think
Anything
it's
cold,
only
you're talking
because
about the
we
item or
cannot
the
survive
plate?
without water,
Both.
that's why it's kosher.
So if the pork,
No,
when you say cold, it's not cooked or cold?
No, it's cooked, but it's cold now.
You put it on a cold plate.
You put a cold pork on a cold plate. It doesn't make the plate treif. The plate is still kosher.
Huh.
You should rinse it off very well, but you
Try
should
to
just rinse it.
experiment at your house. Let me know if you're gonna eat off that plate.
Okay, Rabbi, I have a different question.
You'll eat it.
And I have asked Shlomi that day, he could not give me a straight answer.
Just second question you couldn't answer.
I mean, there's a lot of questions I can answer.
So religion cannot answer water.
I,
Expert.
that means that almost every question Shlomo can answer, which is very impressive.
He has answers to a lot of questions, but okay.
For everything else is Google.
Some people might not know that, but there is when it comes to kosher wine, there is mevushal and not mevushal.
Right.
And I was reading somewhere, like I was doing my research. Most of the good kosher wines are not mevushal.
Right.
Means mevushal means boiled. So Shlomi, can you give us like a whole brief thing? Why
Arabic,
Mevushal, not Mevushal?
But first ask the question, then I'll explain.
Okay, my question is, and I read somewhere like the reason why they have Mevushal wines are because, you know, in the ancient times, non-Jews used to bring wine as the sacrifice to their gods. So right now, you know, the reason why Jews boil their wine, so you can open the bottle of wine and share it with a non-Jews, something
Right.
along those lines.
Right.
Or
And
Jew
you
who
cannot-
doesn't observe Shabbat on Sunday.
Yeah, or if the Jews that like,
Yeah.
I have a bottle of wine, and I was like, Shlomi, can I open this wine? He was like, well, technically, no. I was like, why not? I was like, well, you're not Shaman Shabbat, so technically you're not allowed to drink this wine.
Okay.
Okay.
No, he's not allowed to drink it.
What do you mean
He
you're not
is?
allowed to drink it?
He's allowed to drink it. You're allowed to
You're
drink
allowed
it.
to drink whatever you want.
Yeah.
Why can he
So
He was offering it to me.
Yeah.
So he's not allowed to drink
Right.
it. I can drink it.
Of course.
But Shal is everybody.
So
not
why?
Shal.
So I might as well drink non-kosher wine as well then, no?
Well, if you're not Shomer Shabbat, maybe.
And pork?
No.
Cold pork.
No, because, but really, seriously speaking, some people hold that even non-Shomer Shabbat people do not make wine non-kosher, and therefore it's a chumrah, it's a severe stringency which we have to regard non-Shomer Shabbat as non-Jews for this purpose. But that means that you shouldn't drink non-kosher wine.
So what's your question? What was your question?
So my question is, the whole idea of that of wine being boiled and then you know cooled down, that whole mevushal non-mevushal is thousands of years ago. Non-Jews like goyim, they used to sacrifice wine, and that's why you know they decided to have this old mevushal to.
You know, it's a problem. Let me cut the. I understand the question.
Today we don't have that practice.
Right.
Nobody brings wine into. Nobody uses wine for sacrifice. I
Right.
mean,
No.
non-Jews. Why do we still have mevushal, non-mevushal wines? Since it's not applicable in today's world.
Right. So the problem is like this. Judaism, because we are in Galut, we no longer have a Sanhedrin, and we no longer have the capacity to repeal laws which are on the books. Judaism is a it's a legal system. It's a legal system which has loopholes because it is a legal system. That's something which non-Jews very often have difficulty with, like the concept of an eruv. They say either you're forbidden to carry, or you're not forbidden to carry. You say it's forbidden to carry, then you make yourself a loophole. So the answer is that yes, and like any legal system, because it's not a religion, Judaism, it's a legal system. A legal system has loopholes. That's the way it works. Just like the tax code has loopholes. So too with the wine thing. Chazal built, when the rabbis enacted that decree, they built in that loophole, which is mevushal doesn't apply. But since then, since they legislated that, we've been in galut. And since we've been in galut, we have no right to overturn legislation, even if it no longer applies. It's kind of like when the speed limit on the Palisades is 50 miles per hour, even though nobody goes less than 70. But that it's still the speed limit, and they could give you a ticket because it's on the books, even though it makes no sense. So what we say in this respect is, yes, if we were not in galut, we could change lots of laws, and we would change lots of laws. But we're in galut, and why are we in galut? Because of sinat chinam, because we don't get along with each other, because we're jerks.
In Galut, you mean we are not in
Exile.
Israel, we are outside of Israel.
Yeah, we're in exile. We're outside of not
In
good in
Israel,
Israel.
those laws do not apply.
No. Even Israel's in galut. Galut is a state. Exile is not a state, geographical state. It's a spiritual state.
So basically, until the Jews in harmony altogether.
Yes, until Jews are in harmony, we're stuck with where we are. So it's all our fault because we're jerks.
How come they create a law right now that we're not allowed to eat meat with the dairy stuff? I mean, eat fish with the dairy, and they just modify this law. So it's not. It's more.
That's-
like that. So they do modifying it.
It happens to be that fish with dairy is we had once this discussion, Shlomo and I don't remember where we went with this discussion, but then we had a
What was the
discussion.
question, Rabbi?
But the Sfarim had the halacha of fish and dairy.
It doesn't digest.
Yeah.
It's a homra because of
Yeah.
sakana.
So Ashkenazim don't have this fish and dairy thing. A lot of Ashkenazim, only
No,
you guys.
We didn't have it as well, but it's maybe last year they said, oh, we're not allowed to eat it anymore.
Yeah, it's
No lots of cream cheese?
it's
Yeah.
it's a custom.
It's a
But
minhag.
again,
But
It's
they-
a custom. It's not a law.
It's not
That's the
law.
law. It's
Listen, you have a trade-off. You get to eat rice on Pesach, then you don't get to eat. Then you don't get to eat fish with
Oh,
milk.
so it's like, I see.
Yes.
Take the rice.
I get that.
It's a joke.
Every community has its own customs besides the laws, and those customs they don't necessarily originate in time of the Talmud. They don't necessarily originate more than 500, 600 years ago, but they became the custom of the community. So the community keeps those customs as part of their identity. And since Judaism is concerned with society, so therefore it tells you, Shema b'ni musarvicha b'al titosh Torah timecha, don't give up the customs of your community. If a community adopted a custom, keep it going.
So if you deny it, you're a bad person.
So in our community, back in
Not
the
bad,
days-
but a little bit off.
In our community, back in the days-
No, I mean like you can be punished because you're not following. I'm just going to keep going on that. Like, let's say back in the day.
You know what you're punished for? You're not punished for eating the milk and meat together. I mean, sorry, the milk and the fish together. You're punished because you're a glutton.
Okay.
Okay, I have another question. If in our community, as you said, like, if you were born in that community and you had those laws, keep them. Back in Uzbekistan, everyone knows here, when we were making matzah, we didn't have that strict limitations.
Is exactly
People
that.
used to do their matzah, they used to take their time, whatever it was, we never had limitations.
I can't answer that. I don't know the answer to that question because I don't know historically what was like.
But
It was
Yeah.
20 minutes.
One question more like Tanakh. Like, why did the Navi make the book of Yemot HaOnam?
I can't hear. Shh. Guys,
Why did the Navi make the Sefer Yemot HaOnam, which is basically like an entire summary of all the Naviim, and why is there like different?
Divrei Yamim.
Yeah, Divrei Yamim.
It's a big problem. Divrei Yamim is in Ketuvim and not part of Nevi'im because it is not accurate. Not
Is it
accurate.
not accurate? I mean, because I know
Something
there's
Jewish that
poskim
is
like
accurate?
Radak.
Of course there is.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I mean, is there like because I know like Radak he tries to reconcile.
Yeah, it's very
Radak and
difficult.
stuff
right.
like that.
It's very difficult.
Well,
Divrei
why is it
Yamim.
so?
What?
Was it made by Naviim?
It was made by people at Ruach HaKodesh, but not Nevi'im, and there could be mistakes.
Why? I mean, why is that so?
What do you mean? Why is what so?
Why mistakes happen?
Why are mistakes happening over there?
Because people got the facts wrong. People had the different traditions.
I mean, like if all the suffering were written by Ruach HaKodesh.
Ruach HaKodesh doesn't mean you're right. Otherwise, the Ramban would never argue on Rashi. Rashi, they say, if Rashi's written Ruach HaKodesh, how can the Ramban never argue on Rashi?
Still, he wasn't doing the time. Wait,
What's the difference?
how do you call it? Nevuah.
No,
There was
Ruach
no
HaKodesh
Nevuah?
is not Nevuah.
But there was no Nevuah during the times of.
They were not written. There was, but they were not written by Nevuah.
Oh, so there's a possibility that they got the facts wrong.
Right.
That goes against like the concept of Emet, which the Nevi'im, Tanakh.
Tanakh is the Ketuvim in Tanakh are there because they are worthwhile Sfarim. And Chazal had a lot of trouble with some of them. We know Shir Hashirim almost didn't make the cut. Kohelet almost didn't make the cut. So some books didn't make the cut. Ben Sirah. So those books are there for the purpose of the inspiration and the uplifting quality which they have.
Why did the Divrei Hayamim make the cut?
That's good. Obviously, it has enough positive things that should make the cut.
Question?
Yes. Again, question, you know the answer, I don't. If milk is coming from cow, why it's not allowed to be eaten and drank together?
It's a special pasuk which teaches us that. In other words, the Torah says that these two things should go together.
Wait, but what part is chickens? I mean chicken.
Now, the rabbis came and said that applies to chickens.
Why exactly you can't have a cheeseburger?
Why? Because it says so in the Torah. Are you asking why it says so in the Torah?
Yes.
So again, depends on the system. It either makes you a better person to refrain from eating meat and milk together, or it creates cohesion among Jewish people to have a common code of what can be eaten, what cannot be eaten, or it brings kedusha to the world to observe the word of God in this respect.
Could you explain how it
What
makes
is the
this
whole
better?
purpose of
What?
If I get another, I don't know, 1,000 people who want to eat a cheeseburger, for example,
I can make
we
it.
start our own community.
Because not a
Cheeseburgers are
minhag.
allowed.
There are a lot of things you could do, but not that,
Why not?
because that's the Torah law.
Not cheeseburger, you could eat
If
that.
you want to change customs, like you want to actually,
Fish with milk.
eat rice?
Change that, you could do it.
No, I don't want to change that.
there are ways of changing customs. I don't want to talk about them now
So question,
because we
The
get
word-
into controversial areas. But there are ways to change a custom, but not law.
What about chicken and milk?
That you need to have a Sanhedrin in order to change that. Without a Sanhedrin, you couldn't change that.
Supreme Court.
what's the whole point of kashrut?
Well, most of kashrut has, again, the different reasons which are going to be given by different systems of interpretation. Because it's not one of the core principles of Judaism, it's one of those basic laws, but not principles. So therefore, there is no one reason which is the be-all, end-all reason for it. Many reasons can be given and have been given all through the years. But they're general principles, such as, we don't eat meat from animals which are predators, right? We only eat meat animals
I'm
which...
talking about a cow in a key food and cow in a kosher store. What's the difference?
They're the slaughtering, the shchita.
Okay.
What about halal?
What?
They slaughter the same way.
No, they don't do
No,
the same
they
way.
don't.
No, they don't.
They draw blood.
No, they don't do the same thing. They don't, not across the neck.
They kill the other.
But that actually is given as shchita, is given specifically as one of the reasons, the cases which are meant to teach humanity to be humane. The way Chazal put it, do you think God really cares if you slaughter an animal from the front of the neck or the back of the neck? God couldn't care less. The mitzvahs were given to make us more refined. It's more refined to slaughter from the front of the neck. It's more humane, and therefore you're given that mitzvah.
So let's
But
say
maybe
if
it's more,
that's
you know,
me.
easier more humane just to shot the animal.
What?
Or electrocute
It's
them.
easier to shot the animal.
Oh,
but
it's
so
a good
you-
question, right? So now, why not just shoot it, right? So, my theory of that, my personal theory, is that shoot, it's not necessarily more humane because you can miss, but B, more profoundly, is that we want you, when you're taking life of an animal, we want you to have contact with that. You should know what you're doing. It's inhumane to separate, to create a buffer between you and the killing of the animal.
So let's say if I go to a non
That way you have an idea, you know what, I'm taking a life, it should be for a purpose.
if I go to a non kosher butcher house and I see that the animal is killed in a humane way, why it's still not kosher?
Because the Torah is a legal system. The Torah, it's not a religion. It's a legal system and there's laws. And even though you can find an exception to the rule, the law still remains the law.
Just I don't see from those laws. I don't see Jews live.
Do you know, if
longer,
you
I
can
don't
say-
see they get sick
Again,
less,
what does that do with sickness?
and
If you
commit less crime.
what?
I don't see anything in Jewish life that different from others by eating kosher food, like living longer or committing less crime or getting sick less. Nothing.
Jews
happens.
don't commit less crimes?
No, yes. Jews don't
Violent
commit
crimes?
Jew time, Jew crime.
Wait, they're Jewish.
I'm talking
Wait,
about
they're Jewish crimes. But they're not Jewish crimes too.
Gotta be Jew.
They're Goyish crimes.
no.
The
Let's
Goyish
say,
crimes are the violent
let's-
ones.
White collar.
Wait,
Right, we're white collar criminals, not blue collar criminals. Come on.
Let's take Switzerland and let's take Israel. Switzerland is a Christian country and has much less crime than Israel. So
But
don't
you have
com-
people who eat
in your
kosher
mind
and
you are
shit.
comparing America to American like certain communities to Jewish. No, that's not what I'm saying.
I know the statistics are in Switzerland. I can't tell you, but the bottom line is that Jews over the years, the Jewish have been less violent than non-Jews, and you know, there's a saying. I'm not, don't want to sound like a racist, okay? I'm just telling you the saying goes, okay? Saying goes, it's in Yiddish, shiker vi agoy, drunk like a non-Jew. And drunkenness was always considered to be a non-Jew, except on Purim, was a non-Jewish thing, right? So Jews, they cheat on their taxes, they do all sorts of other things, which are problems, and Chilul Hashem, and terrible, but they don't get drunk and go into crazy fits. They don't go on become murderers. There's certain things which Judaism does have, which we find even simple people. And then, of course, the higher people, the people who are real tzaddikim, right, righteous people who are really...
Depends to what country you compare, to what society, culture.
So basically, really control the people.
Anyways, but my point is,
The Swiss have their own problems. The Swiss hate. They're talking about racism. The Swiss hate foreigners.
okay, let's pick another country.
I know. I'm saying, well, by and large, even though Judaism has many flaws, because Jews have flaws, but on by and large, Jewish society, like until recently, until many non-Jews came with the Russian Aliyah in the 80s and 90s, so violent crime was unheard of in Israel.
But that's not the question I was asking. The question is, why is Judaism talking so much about what we consume if there are no outcome out of it?
There is. That's the point. In other words, what you eat has an impact on who you are. If you're told you have to eat specific things, which are generally from non-violent sources, it has an impact on you. Is it conscious? Not necessarily. Does it work with spiritually? Maybe. But in any event, does it work? We see that it does.
So you're saying vegans are, taking for example the Indians, right? You're saying they should be the least violent of all. It's taking the logic.
In theory, it should be that way, but again, it's not just one aspect. You can't just take one aspect of Judaism and say this is the reason, and not there are other 613 contributing factors.
Japanese, they eat whatever moves. I mean, in the ocean, and they have the longest life expectancy.
So what?
They less likely to get cancer.
So what?
My question is, if kosher and non-kosher dairy.
It has nothing to do with life expectancy or anything of that. So it's more of
refinement.
Right. Controlling you in terms of what you think of.
Well, we said
Okay, then it's spiritual, but
some things are.
No, it's already proved that if you eat bloody meat,
right,
you become more angry.
But you don't need to drink bloody meat.
So like,
you can still.
That's one of the reasons that you know about it, but it's a lot of things that you still don't know. So it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
No, it doesn't mean if you eat non-kosher, it has to be bloody.
I think at 9:30 we should stop, right?
Kosher does not always mean healthy.
Okay.
It's not
5 more minutes.
5 more minutes. So any.
That's really the very last question.
Life-changing question.
Yeah.
No. Okay, that's also
Any.
Okay, you're political.
Yeah, let's go. Trump. What did you? I didn't speak to you after Trump won.
My political views?
Yeah. How did you feel after Trump won?
Terrible.
Terrible.
Yes. I didn't vote for either of them. You know that, right?
Yeah, McMuffin.
Yes, McMuffin, right.
No, but we voted for the other man.
It's very, very. I'm very sad that so many Orthodox Jews like Trump.
Why?
Because it means that they're okay.
5 minutes.
They're okay with the lack of character, with the meanness, with the pettiness. Yeah, well, the lack of good character, with the meanness, with the pettiness, with all that Trump represents. And it's not good. That's not what Judaism is supposed to want society to be refined.
But I think Trump is good for Israel.
I don't think Trump is so good for Israel, but that shouldn't be. Then we should hold our noses and say, okay, I have to vote for him because he's good for Israel, but we shouldn't be happy with him.
Right. But it doesn't sound like you voted for Hillary either.
No, I voted for Evan McMullen.
For who?
Evan McMullen.
Another Facebook.
He voted for Jill Stein.
Evan McMullen was I had to write him in the state of New York. He was
So you get to know about.
He's a Mormon. I like Mormons, even though they have crazy religion. But I like Mormons. So he was a Mormon from Utah who had good values, and I thought he had picked a Jewish woman, not from, but a Jewish woman as his running mate, and he closest to representing what I believe in politically.
But even though you knew what he stands no chances, you still voted for
Yeah, because I couldn't vote for any of these people. How can I bring myself to vote for these people?
But you knew it's either Trump or Hillary. What's the point of voting
But I have to participate. In Judaism, there's a prohibition of l'sayeh de over avera, to help people. You're not supposed to help people sin. So I'm supposed to help the American public sin by picking one of these people. I couldn't do it.
So, in the
Guess
conclusion,
we sin Shlomo.
since we came here,
Shlomo, who did you
you
vote
can,
for?
you can tell some of
You
us
contributed to the
believe,
sin.
some of us, like in the search of God.
And your vote.
What do you advise us?
In New York,
Yeah, what's
So I
your
don't know why
advice
anyone
for
goes
us?
to
Well,
New York.
I would give you a reading list, and if you email me, Shlomo has my email address. I will suggest to you what to read first, and how to progress, how to proceed. I can't because obviously hit and run. It's not going to work. You willing to invest?
Yeah, no, I actually wanted to hear your more like your opinion from you person, not to.
You're going to hear from me personally.
No, it was asking questions. Now your opinion on our views and how we can work on it.
So I'm telling you, you need to research. You can't just
Will
you can't say, okay, in 5 minutes or less, tell me why I should believe what I believe.
That's not what I was. Okay. Were you born being
Orthodox family?
I was born a rabbi. No. I was born what's called nowadays modern Orthodox.
So
But
your grandparents, your parents, everybody, they were all.
they're all Orthodox Jews, yeah. We have a family tree going back hundreds of years. Yeah.
From where?
Well, on my father's side, from a little town called Beethoven in Germany. That's the name Beckhofer comes from. He was born there. So they've been there since the 1600s. On my mother's side, to Lithuania.
Alright, I have a question. What's the best way to do Kiruv and do Kiddush Hashem?
Be a good person.
That's it?
Yeah, that's the best way to do it.
How do you know?
Or come here and answer questions. That might help. But the best way is be a good example, a role model for humanity. People can say, that person, he's a good person. That's the best way to do Kiruv.
Religious versus traditionalist. Is it
Sorry?
okay to be a Jew, but is it okay? Is it okay to call yourself a Jew, but be a traditionalist?
Follow
or
traditions instead of-
like do these like Shabbos, Shabbos dinner, and then
Sit in the car.
not completely observe.
Do whatever you can.
Do whatever you can. Okay.
Yes.
Just
Okay.
be-
By the way, that's a beautiful thing between the beautiful thing about Eidot HaMizrach, about people from Sephardic lands versus Ashkenazim, is that Ashkenazim have this stupid thing about Orthodox, conservative, reform. You guys don't have that. That's a great bracha not to have that.
We have other things.
I didn't say everything is an advantage. Just saying that is an
something
advantage.
else, but it's okay. Fine, I got it. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
They say if you scratch any Sephardi, you'll find a Mamin.
Hello?
If you scratch any Sephardi, you'll find a believer.
What's the ratio of Sephardic versus Ashkenazi?
Don't scratch me.
Probably 50-50. Yeah, because in Israel, there are more Sephardim than Ashkenazim. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
They have their own party.
I thought I was a minority.
Huge.
No, if you go to Israel, you're the majority. Yeah. It's only here. Okay, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
Good.